Ray Allen Canine. It's no secret that we love Ray Allen Canine equipment. We use their products every single day at both Van Ness Canine and at Torchlight. Their mission statement says it all: to be the world leader in quality innovation for professional canine equipment for police, military, Schutzen, and ring sport. Tend to exceed their customers' expectations and deliver on time every time at a fair price. We full heartedly believe that they've held true to that since it is our go to one stop shop for everything canine, not just police dogs, but for any working dog.
This episode is also brought to you by our good friends over at Dogtra, dogtra.com. It's the e-collars that Ted and I use. It's the e-collars most police dog guys use. Dogtra.com, e-collars, bark collars, ball launchers, one-stop shop for everything you need for your working dog, dogtra.com.
One of the other sponsors we're proud to have is HITS Canine Training Conference. It's the premier canine training seminar in the United States, packed to the brim with the world's best instructors covering important topics from admins to liability to detection work, all and tracking and everything in between. There's no better place to learn and no better place to network with other handlers, breeders, and trainers. HITS 2022 is being held in Orlando in August. So hit them up, hitscanine.net.
We're super happy to be represented by our good friends at Kinetic Dog Food. We've got great reviews from people all over the place. Ever since we joined up with them and partnered with them, their commitment to your dog's nutrition is top notch. KineticDogFood.com. Check them out.
Jim over at NC Canine out in North Carolina. It's the culmination of 13 years of experience in handling or training law enforcement canines. They use real world deployments to develop their training program and rely not only on their experience, but the current experience of the nation's canine handlers provide the best canine partner you can get. They provide pet training and police canine training based out of Four Oaks, North Carolina, and they serve the surrounding areas as well as nationally. Feel free to call them and learn more about their dog training program, police canine techniques, and methodologies.
We got a brand new sponsor, man, American Aluminum Accessories. My entire time in canine, and ever since I've been involved in the dogs, the kennel in the back of our cruisers has always been American Aluminum. Check them out. We're so happy to have them on here. EasyRiderOnline.com, EasyRiderOnline.com for everything you need from American Aluminum Accessories.
Speaking of kennels, once you get out of the car, you got to have somewhere to put them. So our friends up in Ohio at Horizon Structures make a one-stop shop for kennel. If you want a 2-dog kennel or if you want a 20-dog kennel, they got you covered. They get those things built and they drop it off at your house. All you got to have is a pad, electricity, and water, and you can put dogs in it that day. Horizon Structures can build you anything from mild to wild, and it is the one-stop shop, and you don't have to swing a single hammer. So hit them up, horizonstructures.com. All right, we are back. Working Dog Radio, broadcasting the bite. I am Ted Summers from Tulsa, Oklahoma. As always, with me from Canton, Ohio, is Eric Stambro. Eric, what's up?
So about 2 hours ago, I did a wedding. A lot of people don't know I'm an ordained minister. So I was out on the boat here at the lake. Let me see. I'll stand up. See if you can. You guys got to go to YouTube to see this. This is a shirt I wore at my 50th birthday party. It's in sync. And that's me as one of the.
Oh, holy shit. And on top of that, I have sleeves on and you don't.
Correct. For the first time. So
wow. Man, I didn't anticipate that. I'm wearing my Tosca shirt today. And Nick Bean needs to fucking come on the show. I've been bugging him about it. But yeah, so
yeah, work dogs all day, married a friend of mine and her boyfriend, and here we are.
I'm doing pets. I had the city inspector out today. They gave me the blessing on our electricity, so they're dropping a huge air conditioner. It's like the size of my car on the building next week. But I'm going to be in Billings, Montana for HRD. We've got that thing that's kind of sold out. We have a ton of audit slots too, admin audit slots. So I'm like, hey, hopefully we'll see how that goes. So yeah, it's going to be. Yeah, it's going to be, and apparently it's because somebody was asking me the other day, it's like, oh, it's going to be nice up there. I'm like, fuck no, it's hot. It's like here. It's 100 degrees. No, it's not nice up there. They're like, oh, it'll be a dry heat, which we'll talk about here in a second. I'm like, it's still fucking hot. I don't care. Other than that, we're just doing a lot of pets. Just got rid of a green dog the other day. He's going to be going to a department over in Arkansas. So other than that, we haven't been doing a whole lot other than sweating. So
yeah, I did. My assistant trainer guy went on a deep sea fishing trip for a couple of days. So Tuesday, I did all the dogs myself, and I'm imprinting dogs. So I have three that I'm doing right now, 3 or 4, and I'm doing 2 explosives and 2 drug dogs, and one of them is on 2 of them are on tube direct or indirect reward for food. One is a box protocol, and the other one is indirect to a toy. And he texted me today. He goes, "How'd it go?" I go, "Why do I have so many fucking steps? Why is there so many steps at the facility? It's so dumb.
Why is it so
Why didn't I put everything on the first floor? It's and there's no air conditioning in the building. It's I mean, I got fans going, everything. It's hot.
When I was there, I thought that too. I was like,
I got lung problems, dude. I can't be running up and down the damn steps.
You know that place has got asbestos in it too.
Don't they have I don't know.
There's like tank parts or something buried in there too, right?
Somewhere on the property, yeah. At the end of World War,
there's like a fucking tank buried there.
There's a whole bunch of track vehicles somewhere. They dug a hole at the end of the war, lost the contracts were over, buried it and concreted over it and built a building. So
probably under the gravestone in the fucking basement.
There's a lady buried under the building. So good times.
All that. So who do we have tonight?
So we have a guy who back when I went to work for Cobra on the West Coast at NSW, I had missed. I don't know. We'll find out that year maybe, or by a year. I think maybe I missed him. I went and essentially kind of took his place, I think, or his slot that was there, and he went off to do some stuff for the Marines. He's got a thriving pet dog business and on a pretty freaking sweet piece of property. And guys that I know that have been there said the facility is amazing. We'll talk about, he just had a seminar out there, things he's done, and a very popular puppy obstacle course video that has kind of gone blowing up. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So we have our friend Dustin Winn. Dustin, how are you doing, buddy?
Hey guys, I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, man. We're really glad you could come on with us. I know you have to get I's, dotted and T's crossed and everything by some folks to talk, but we really do appreciate it.
Been a long time coming.
Yeah, I think I asked you last year, and you're like, "Yeah."
And I want to say it was 2 years ago. I want to say it was at one of the. I don't want to mention the conference name, but the one in Vegas.
Yeah. That could have been, yeah. Yeah, we don't go there anymore. So.
Yeah, for those that can't hear it, can't see me, I just made a face. It's fine. Yeah. So you're out in San Diego. How long have you been out of the Marines?
So I've been out of active duty service. I exited in 2003, and then started some overseas contracting with some security firms in Iraq.
So talk a little bit about what led you into the Marines, and we'll go through that whole story about how we end up doing dog stuff. So start at the beginning.
Yeah, so my career started at 99, but I joined the Marine Corps, kind of not really understanding what my career path really entailed, other than I wanted to be in the Marine Corps. I didn't want to stay in the small town that I grew up in Minnesota, and I wanted to get out and kind of see the world and do a little bit more than sit there. So I decided to join the Marine Corps in high school, and as a senior, entered the Marine Corps as at that time, it was what first available for me was going as a military police officer. So I decided to take that. Entered the Marine Corps in August of 99, and then was in MP school in the first part of 2000. While I was going through MP school, they came through and said, "Hey, anybody looking to be dog handlers or thinking about canine? You got to do a written essay, and then we'll do an oral interview with you to see if it's something you qualify for." So I decided to raise my hand and step forward and write the essay and then do the oral interview. And I was one of very few guys that got selected to be a pipeline canine handler, military working dog handler, straight out of MP school, which was really, really big feat at the time. So I went to canine school. 3 months in Lackland Air Force Base, learning, your basic bite, your basic apprehension, and then your detection skill set. So after that, I graduated in July or June of 2000 and went straight to Okinawa, Japan, worked a bomb dog or a explosive detection dog there for about a year. Did a lot of customs and border enforcement kind of stuff with detection, basically getting fapped out to immigration. And then you go out and you do detection searches and stuff like that for narcotics on health and welfare. And that's kind of what we did while I was there. That was the main focus. We'd get flown out to some of the ships coming into port on helicopters. You get out, you do a health and comfort welfare check on the individuals coming back from ports like Philippines and things like that. So you check for narcotics, and then you get off the boat and you go about your business. When I came back from Okinawa, Japan, I got stationed at Miramar in San Diego as an explosive detection, dual purpose explosive detection and bite dog. Had some fun there on Miramar at the time. That was probably one of the most active, other than Okinawa, Japan. The hook and jab is what they called the enlisted club there, the hook and jab. So that was always a riot. You'd work dogs there, and sometimes you go in and get a bite, or sometimes somebody come out and get a bite. So it was but then coming back from overseas, Okinawa, stationed at Miramar, that E-Club was really active. So I was able to get some active bites there, which were my first of my career. And then what was a career changer for me, I think, is 9/11. When 9/11 happened, I just got off a night shift, worked in the E-Club and had an active night. So I had packed my things up and went back to my barracks room. When I got a knock at the door, and it was one of the handlers there, and they said, "Hey, you gotta get back to the kennel. Something's not right. There's some stuff going on." So me as a young Marine, as a Lance Corporal, I'm kicking rocks going back to the kennels. Like, geez, I just finished a night shift, a long night shift. I did kennel care the morning of, and then I got out of there. So here I'm kicking rocks back to the kennels, and lo and behold, I walk into the second plane hitting the towers. And that was, I think for me, an emotional time as a dog handler, as a bomb dog handler, explosive detection dog handler, changed my life forever, because I was immediately thrown into chaos, because I was one of few bomb dog handlers or explosive detection dog handlers in the Marine Corps, but in military in general, didn't have a huge selection of explosive detection dogs at the time that were dual trained. Yeah. The transition period when they started ramping everything up. But in the meantime, I got so much work, I didn't know what to do with myself. We were sent to other bases. Our base, Miramar, was immediately locked down. And we went on basically a 24-hour rampage of explosive detection on vehicles entering Miramar in San Diego there. So the traffic was intense. And then getting fapped out to other bases that didn't have adequate amount of explosive detection dogs. And then getting deployed to Saudi Arabia, intel gathering mission, because most of the 9/11 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia area. So that put us into an intel gathering mission there. So we were able to do some decent work in Saudi Arabia. I was there for about 8 months, came back to San Diego again. And within a couple months, I got the notice that I'd be going to Afghanistan for an Afghan deployment. I think I maybe spent 3 months at home, and then I did a quick turn and burn and went to Afghanistan, was deployed there for about 5.5 months. And then my dog, while I was over there, my 6-year-old German Shepherd, Aura, her name was Aura, developed some hip problems, and I had to sideline myself from the rest of that deployment, which was only about another 2 weeks or 3 weeks, something like that, and get sent back because she couldn't complete the tasks anymore. So, I mean, I definitely worked her pretty hard the last 2.5 years that I was active duty with her. And she was only a 6-year-old dog, but I was able, one of the few guys, or one of the first guys back in the day that was able to retire their military working dog from active duty service and take her home and allow her to live, a retired life at that point, and let her be a couch dog and eat what she wanted, and not really focus too much on her training. I still did some fun stuff with her. But I was able to take her when I left the Marine Corps and at least try to pay her back for the services that she provided me.
So those folks that don't understand, like, they hear, oh, you're at Miramar, and then what they don't know, you spend a lot of time at Pendleton and stuff. Talk about how massive those places are when it comes to trying to work explosive detection. at a place like that. Like, I don't think people understand how big of area that the Marines have up in between those two places.
In between where?
Like Miramar and Camp Pendleton and all the places that you probably bounced around to with that dog when you came after 9/11.
Oh yeah, no, and the crazy part was, so I mean, you're working gate checks, you're working. I mean, at that point, every entry point was locked down. It was funneled into one area, and all those vehicles had to be searched on the way in. So you're out there. I mean, you're just. It got pretty grueling. Luckily, it wasn't a hot time of the year. It was fading into fall and winter time. So that was the only really saving grace to us working the long hours that we did. I mean, it was not uncommon for us to work 16 hours in a day and go hang it up for a little while and give her some break. But what was unique about my position is right after the towers fell, it wasn't soon after. I was there shortly after the towers fell. I was at ground zero doing secondary sweeps for devices that they were worried about being planted there on, visiting dignitaries. It could have been the president, anybody could have been a target at that point. Responders, first responders, second, the people that showed up there, they didn't know if they were going to be targeted either. So they had us out there searching the perimeter, the speaking podiums, the observation decks for secondary devices on an almost daily basis when I was in New York for about a month's time frame after the towers fell.
Wow, that's crazy, man. That had to been, I mean, that's something you're never going to forget, right?
No. Well, and it's not only the sights, it's the sounds, the
smells. Yeah.
It was insane. And I'll never forget those. And I had, that was my dog. I had Aura down there, and she was the one that went through and did the work with me. And it's crazy when you think back. I mean, I think I recall some of those moments, but until I sit down and do interviews like this, I guess it's almost like a blocked out moment in my life that I don't think a lot about until it gets brought up.
Yeah. So when you go to Lackland and you go out to Okinawa, who's the dog that goes there?
So those dogs. So when you go to Lackland, what you're doing is you're picking up a dog that is probably towards the tail end of its career in the military. A lot of times they might have behavioral issues, things like that. They're just maybe not suitable as a primary working dog at one of the bases. And it could be Navy, Marine Corps, Army, it doesn't matter. Just those dogs get funneled back to Lackland. Sometimes it could be a green dog. You might get handed a green dog for the classmates that maybe showed a little better. They get green dogs and they work green dogs through the course. So it could go either way. It could be a veteran dog that is pretty much push button for all intents and purposes, a problem dog, which I had one of the problem dogs there, or it could be a green dog that really knows nothing. And with the help of the instructors, you're going through the learning process with that dog as a brand new handler. So, and sometimes those handlers get the opportunity to take that dog with them when they leave and go to their next duty station.
So when you go to Okinawa, there's a dog waiting for you there?
There's a dog waiting there. There's a dog there that had, when I picked up Barry, military working dog Barry, in Okinawa, Japan in early or mid 2000, that dog had been through 6 handlers already.
Wow.
6 handlers. And he was an older dog. He was probably in the latter stages. I think he maybe had 3 more handlers after I left that worked him. Yeah. Crazy, right? Because at the time, you got to understand, we were doing year rotations there. That was only a year that I would spend. So you come up, you do an annual cert with that dog, and you'd ride out your time with that dog, and then you drop the leash and you'd say bye and you'd walk away and never see that dog again.
Well, what was your opinion of Barry being a new guy?
I mean, I look back and Barry was probably a lower drive Mal that kind of had a weird shaped head, but great dog. I mean, he did the work for me, but a little bit lower drive. I thinking back, it was probably a good starter dog for me, and kind of got my feet wet a little bit, and jumped into some much harder hitting, higher drive dogs down the road. So he set me up for success.
Yeah. So the next dog, now was Barry dual purpose? He was dual purpose, right?
Barry was a narc bite. Yeah, he was
okay.
Yep. So most you got then were dual purpose. They were either narc and bite or explosive and bite. And
yeah,
structured the program at that time. After 9/11, that all changed. You went to tracking dogs, single purpose tracking dogs, single purpose explosive detection dogs, combat tracking dog teams. So you had you had SSDs, you had just a very wide variety of dogs that kicked off after 9/11.
Yeah, we talked to some of the TED handlers.
Yeah.
Which that program got absorbed into something else, and then something else, and then that was about the time. And we were talking about this before we came on. We interviewed some of the guys from some of the other specialized units that we'll get into in other episodes. But that was about the time that everyone was like, "Why
They
do
were
we have
pumping them
dogs?"
out, man?
Yeah, they were like, "Why do only the fucking cops have them? Like, why do only MWD guys have them?" I mean, one of the very first episodes we ever did was Benito, right? And he was an MA in the fucking Navy, and those damn net guys came over and they're like, "Hey," they're like, "We need your help." And then forever he was just Benny the dog guy. So yeah, I mean, that was about the same time. And like, it's weird because, you know, because Benny was in the Navy the same time that you were in the Marines, and it was kind of the same deal. And like, everybody has the same story about how those units started. They're all like looking around, and everybody's looking around. They're like, "Well, who has all the dogs?" They're like, "It's all the fucking cops. All the cops have dogs. All the MA guys and all the MWE or all the police guys have fucking dogs." And then so they went and farmed you kids out. So
yep, and all those cops, all the cop dogs, you know, those military working dogs got immediate work, and really some intense work that was never anticipated or never even thought about at that time of getting that kind of work, which was crazy because you went from kind of a garrison mindset to a very combat mindset very quickly.
Yeah.
We just interviewed Sinead Mbaro, which
Yeah.
will come out before this episode. So if you're listening to us now, you've already listened to it. She was just down in Florida at the collapsed condo building doing work with her search and rescue dog. And she talks about the smell, and that the smell at that building is something that she's never going to forget. And that's a tiny fraction of the size of 9/11. How many Marine Corps guys were there when you were there?
So the whole reason, the whole purpose that they initially sent us down there was the G8 summit was still going to kick off, right? The U.S. government didn't want to shut down the UN operations and make it look like there was any kind of turmoil within the states. So what they did is they kept the G8 summit going. So they needed a mass amount of explosive detection dog handlers to provide security, which the Secret Service couldn't cover. FBI couldn't cover it either. So what we did is we got basically mapped out to Secret Service and FBI to go out there and do the work that they couldn't facilitate on their end. And there was, I mean, looking back, if I had to guess, there was maybe, of the Marine Corps dog handlers, there was probably 10 of us there, I'm guessing. But then that's just the Marine Corps guys. There was other handlers there as well from other units and things like that. So
one of the things I like to ask guys that are, when they think back, that are new, that end up handling multiple dogs. So I'll stick with Barry. What did he teach you, that dog?
You know, gosh, looking back, I mean, it was certainly a skill set that I was new to, right? So he was, for all intents and purposes, a push button dog. So I learned really good dog behavior because I didn't have to do a lot of work. I let him kind of do the work and show me. And then I could read him really well. So I think, if anything, he taught me some really good animal behavior, good lesson learned on what to look for in a good dog. So above all, I would say good, just being able to read a dog really well.
So going back, you said you had to go over to, so after you go to New York, you head over to Saudi Arabia for some intelligence gathering stuff, and you didn't get to finish that one out because the dog ended up getting injured. Or
no.
That
was Aura with me. I was able to finish out that deployment at about 8 months there, and it was at a place called Escon Village, is kind of where we able to set. I don't think it's even in operation anymore. If it is, it's more of a contractor spot where they're doing some of the oil stuff out there. But I don't think there's any more military individuals there, maybe just contractors. But yeah, that was we worked some perimeter security, and then also getting attached to some of the units that were going out and doing more extreme work in the city, doing raid stuff like that.
So, and then you come back after this. What year are we in now? 2000.
So that was 2002. So in, and then shortly, right about the later part of 2002 is when I made the move, or got back from Saudi Arabia, stayed over Christmas time, and then about early 2003 is when I went over to Afghanistan.
So take us through that. Like when you get back to the United States, did you switch dogs again? So
No,
before you,
I was able to. So anytime you're stationed on the base, right, you that dog is maintained with you.
Right.
If you duty station, then that dog, at that time was left behind, and you picked up a new dog when you got to that next duty station. I was fortunate enough that I stayed. The remainder of my active duty time was at Miramar. So when I got back from Saudi Arabia, I maintained that dog. We did all our certs. We had to redo a recert, get pumped for Afghanistan. And in that day, man, like, you got to understand, like 2003, that was, some of the initial, very initial push into Afghanistan. It was fairly new, still driving around soft skin vehicles in Afghanistan. And then when I went
safe.
Yeah. Well, and at that time there wasn't, there's a threat. Obviously there's always an indirect fire threat. IEDs weren't, sorry guys. IEDs weren't extremely, and they weren't too prevalent. They were still there, but it wasn't crazy. But when I went to get my combat deployment issue, I got issued a fucking flak jacket, a Vietnam flak jacket. Nice. With an LBV, and I'm not joking. I got a LBV and a flak jacket that was at that time I was still rocking the old Woodlands. That was still the uniform that was being rocked at the time. So
was really about 40 pounds, that flak jacket?
Yeah, and probably it had rips in it. I don't know that it would have stopped anything really at that point. But that's what I got issued. That's what I went to combat with. Obviously, when I got there, things changed a little bit. I dropped some. They had some equipment in country that we grabbed a hold of. But that transit into country with that equipment, I was like, oh, and I think I may have even had an M16 with me, man. At the time, that was another thing too. So nice. Here I am with, I got a long gun with me, and we're rolling into country, and and I didn't know what to expect. Honestly, I was keeping my kind of mind open to what to expect. We get to Germany. You spend a little bit of time in Germany. We partied pretty hard in Germany before we went and took the last leg into Kandahar. And then in Kandahar, you're really kind of fending for yourself at that point. You're going, well, how do we get to Bagram? How do we get to the air base so that we can get, pushed to our unit? You're pretty much there just, I felt like I was bartering for a flight, right? You're in the middle of nowhere and you're trying to like get a flight and go here and go there. Maybe you got to go a roundabout way. And at the time it was just, you talk to the ops chief and the guy would line you up with the flight. Maybe the flight goes through, maybe it doesn't. And we went up and talked to him, and I said, hey, we got 2 dogs. We got just us. We got our gear all palletized already. What can we do to get us on the next flight to Bagram? And he goes, well, I got a flight going, but it's got to make a stop. And I said, okay, well, the stop's fine. Like wherever it's going. As long as we're getting there, a stop, I don't mind. He goes, okay. He goes, I'll put you on that flight. So we got on that flight, and it was probably one of the more intense flights. You got to understand, coming from, garrison environment, and then maybe a little bit of action in Saudi, and then now a full on combat environment, combat deployment. You're going in and going, you're getting on the flight, you're all palletized, and you're rolling. And before you know it, the C-130 you're on starts doing a corkscrew, pretty steep dive into a landing zone of some sort that you're not looking out. You're sitting in your jump seat, right? Your cargo net, and you're doing your thing. And it wheels around one time, and then this thing, I swear to God, it must have bounced like 4 times when it hit the ground. Shock load, boom, boom, it bounced. And as we're rolling, the ass end of the C-130 drops down. And without, honest to God, it didn't stop. It kept moving. In come, the ATVs, with, full, just all kitted up, crazy looking ATVs, and these guys that had probably been out in the environment for months at a time, come wheeling up inside, this thing. They ratchet everything down. And, no sooner did they get everything ratcheted down that the ass end pulls back up, and we're taking off and we're on our way to Bagram. So that was my introduction to that environment. And this guy sits down next to me. He goes, "Hey, where the fuck's this plane going?" And I said, "Damn, man, I think it's going to Bagram, but I really don't know at this point. I'm a little lost."
I don't even know where the fuck we're at. Like,
Where we're at to go to Bagram? Yeah, I guess that's the last I knew.
Yeah, dude's got a big ass fucking beard. You're like,
Oh, he's just,
dude.
yeah. It was a wild experience, and to get that kind of like immediate burst, into that environment was it was a little shell shocking to say the least. But I think for anybody that is going into that environment and they see that, I think that's just like here we are. All right, let's go. Let's do it.
So real quick, I got hired in 1996 at the police department. 97, I get on SWAT. We have no rifles. We only have MP5. We have 3 MP5s, which I thought were the greatest thing ever, right? Pistol, shotgun, MP5. That was our loadout for the guys on the raid teams. I left so we were using Rock River rifles, and then I get off the team in 2012, and they give me a M16A1 as my, in 2012, dude.
That's wild. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, we cleaned the Cosmoline off this rifle before we gave it to you. It was that free government rifles that they gave, thousands. They're like, yeah, this was Vietnam.
The fucking carry handle on it and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe shit.
Yep.
So before we break, when you're there in Afghanistan, obviously it's different than where you've been before. What was your mission?
So that was, we were attached to a unit that was in charge and responsible for the direct security of the U.S. Embassy in Kabul. Right. It was basically just a building that was fortified, taken over by the U.S. government to set up operations, diplomatic operations in Afghanistan. And that was our main objective. And within that objective, we got the opportunity to do other work, but for the most part, it was direct support and security of the U.S. Embassy in Afghanistan.
I can imagine that was busy.
It was extremely busy. Yeah.
I can think of a couple of places that I would rather be.
Yeah. Well, it was just
American Embassy, fucking Afghanistan.
And it was such a target at the time in 2003. It was you had a lot of indirect fire. You had just mortars and rockets lobbed in whenever they felt like they wanted to, which was on a regular basis. So just a really, really extreme environment to be a part of. And then you're making supply runs to Bagram, which was I believe about a 30 or 40 minute drive through the country. In a soft skin vehicle, and you're just cruising through the hills of Afghanistan, which was really crazy.
So listening to Fortunate Son.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
With your fucking M16.
Oh, I have
Sony headphones on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a Walkman. Anybody else?
Got a walk.
Getting shot at by dudes wearing fucking Jordans. So we're gonna take a break real quick. When we come back, we'll do some more in-country stuff, and we'll kind of transfer into the latter part of that. So don't go anywhere. Don't fast forward through the commercials.
We have a long-standing relationship with the guys over at HITS Canine Training Conference. It's truly America's premier canine seminar. It is the largest. It is the best. They cover every important topic in the canine industry. Hundreds and hundreds of vendors, thousands of canine people there. Everybody in this industry is there. Ted and I will be teaching. HITS 2022 is being held in Orlando, Florida, August 16th to the 19th. Also, check out their website, hitscanine.net. They have other classes that they're putting out online, Zoom classes and all kinds of other things. They're offering in-person classes leading up to HITS 2022, Orlando, Florida, August 16th to the 19th. Check it out, hitscanine.net.
Everyone knows that I live on chicken nuggets and Coors Light. So that doesn't mean your dog should, though. Our friends at Kinetic make it a point to fuel working dogs, and they know that it can be tough, and they need high quality food, unlike me. to give them energy and the nutrients that they require. I just subsist on air and, Coors Light, but the dogs can't. They actually have to work. So for that, we asked Kinetic, and Kinetic has come up with a great balance of healthy meats and grains and is made specifically for working and sport dogs. They have a full line of foods and supplements available, and they've been working to perfect their line for thousands of dogs in hundreds of departments across the U.S. You can buy it locally online or at Tractor Supply, or you can get it at Chewy. So head over to their website, kineticdogfood.com, 513-615-6904, and get them on the socials at Kinetic Dog Food.
So probably the number one product I've ever advertised for or used that does what they say is Quick Derm by Vet Care. I have it at my house. I have it at the kennel. I have it at the fun house. I have it at the doggy daycare. I have my trainers have it at their house. It is unbelievable how it works. You guys have all heard Ted and I talk about it, how we've gotten tagged by dogs, or dogs do, if you're dealing with working dogs, weird stuff happens, right? Cuts how the hell that happened? Bites, scratches, all kinds of things that happen, especially if you're doing anything in the wooded area, they get tore up. The Quick Derm by Vet Care, it is no exaggeration. It is great. So once daily treatment for any skin condition or small wounds to help stop little issues from becoming big ones. Comes in sprays, ointments, or dressing. Quick Derm is great at creating a protective barrier and promoting wound healing. The best thing too is they have a discount code. Get on their website, vetcare.us. That's vetcare.us. Put in the discount code 10WDR in capital letters, 10WDR for 10% off your first order.
These next guys have actually been on the show, and we instructed at the first Tripwire conference down in Florida. Jim O'Brien was a guest on the show, and he runs NC Canine, who has now come onto the show as a sponsor. Jim's been around for quite a long time, about 13-ish years, with experience handling and training law enforcement canines. He uses real-world deployments to develop training program and not rely only on their experience, but current experiences from most of their national canine teams and handlers to provide the best canine partner that you guys can purchase. They provide pet training and police canine services based out of Four Oaks, North Carolina, and they serve the surrounding areas. Feel free to give Jim a call, a text, carrier pigeon, however you want to get a hold of him, to talk to him about police canine training or pets and techniques and methodologies. So hit him up at 919-438-0141 or J O'Brien. That's JOBRIEN at NC, letter K number 9.us. Check the show notes. We'll put it there. All right, we are back with our buddy Dustin Winn from North County Canine out in San Diego. And we're listening to Vietnam era stories about Vietnam era equipment. And
Fuckers were accurate though. Iron sights in that bitch was accurate.
I know.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, it makes you a better shooter.
Yeah, I'm an iron sights fanatic, man. I love them.
Listen, right before I got off the SWAT team, I shot a dude on a drug raid. I was on perimeter, and he shot at the team, and then came up to the window. I tracked him through the house, and he came out and busted the window out, pointing the gun. That little EOTech sight there, I was better than iron sights. There was no question, because I could look to see that and never move my head.
Yep.
2 rounds done.
Oh yeah, that's once you get a taste of that kind of optic, yeah, it's so different.
Because here's me with iron sights.
Yep.
I tongue out, biting the side of my face.
Yeah.
Like that.
When Melnick came through town last time, or not last time, a couple times before, he had an MP5 with him, a suppressed MP5 with one of those sights on it. It's like playing a fucking video game.
It's a
like, at 40 yards, it's just like
MP5s are so fun. So it was like playing a video game. You can get a baby to shoot a perfect group with an MP5.
Oh,
we just got demonetized. So
yeah, right?
Thanks, Eric.
Babies with guns.
Babies and guns. We don't
condone
children playing with fire.
Like me.
So, all right, you're in Afghanistan, and you are at this point securing the embassy. Well, the building that is the embassy, and dudes are taking pot shots at you. You guys, did they give you a new fucking vest, or are you still wearing the flak jacket?
Oh, I was still rocking a flak jacket, man. That was my kit. that was how I operated. Yeah, I was able to upgrade to a little bit better than an LBV, which was like a mesh vest that you put on that had mag holders, and you could and they even issued me a canteen with a canteen holder in it as well when I got my deployment issue. Yeah, it was wild. It was a full-on Vietnam issue. What the kicker is, when I got in country, so we do our they had flown in a vet because they knew that there was going to be an influx of dogs. So they do an initial health check on the dog, and we're on our way back from that health check, and we're in these soft skin vehicles, these Humvees, and the backs of those things drop all the way down, right? It's not that it folds out to like a tailgate. That thing folds all the way down. So I go to get my dog out of the back of this thing, and her back paw slips between the tailgate and the bed of the Humvee, and it almost gloved her paw. Like it folded her skin back so far. And right away when it happened, because she got hung up, it didn't break anything, but she got hung up and it slipped out. And right away I saw the paw tuck up, and I was like, great, what did I do? Here we go. I'm getting sent home right now. And my poor dog, I just hurt the shit out of her. What am I going to do? So I looked at it, and it didn't even bleed. It was crazy. It was like it folded the skin back and just peeled it back.
Like a degloved her or something, or like
gloved part of her paw, like the top side down to like the top of her paw. So I went back, talked to the vet. We drove back there right away, and luckily I wasn't over at the embassy yet. We were fairly close, only like a mile away. Went back, had them look at it. They stitched up, and within a couple weeks, I think she was on limited duty for like a week, and then we were back to work within a week and a half. So it was a rocky start to it, but we were able to kind of clean things up and get back to work fairly quickly.
Speaking of back to work, at this point, what odors were you guys training on? Because HME, it's always been a thing. I mean, that's what they used in Oklahoma City, the Murrah building and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, it really, where you were at in Afghanistan, we had somebody else on and they talked about, and we had Paul Hammond on too and talked about it too. Like in Iraq, it was all military grade explosives. Like it was all stuff from the Russians to the Chinese or whatever else. So it was stuff that we were conventionally using. And where you guys are at now, it was all fucking farmers, like doing bunny ears.
A lot of ammonium nitrate, things like that were going to be formulated into a mass either a suicide vest. And suicide vests weren't really prevalent at the time. You had more like VBIDs weren't crazy either. They'd plant explosives and try to get you that way. But it was mostly whatever happened in country. If there was something like a trend that was unfolding, EOD would get up with us, or we'd get up with EOD and say, hey, what can we use? What training aids? Because they do collections. They do their lab collections to be sent back to wherever they're sending the stuff back to. But they would get us samples, and we would train on those samples. So whatever it was, and it could have been, it was dirty shit. It wasn't clean stuff at all. It wasn't military grade. Yeah. Dirty stuff.
No, and that's what because we had on Josh and Travis Bobo, both Green Berets, and they were in country at the same time. And Travis ended up finding some stuff that they had never seen before. And then he kind of told a story about how they were using spray paint and waiting for it to dry. And then the dogs were all alerting on spray paint. He was like, so in theater, I'm having to fucking proof my dog of a spray paint because they're, scraping the aluminum off of it to put it into fucking bombs. So, is there anything like that happened? Like, you were dealing with the EOD guys all the time, but I guess, were you guys actually having finds or using the dogs and having actual live finds at the time?
Yep. So the problem that I think a lot of people ran into, and this wasn't just me in general, was ANFO. You had ammonium nitrate and fuel oil. And they were using diesel fuel. So you can imagine the amount of diesel spills on the sides of the most of the trucks in country, and your dog's showing a change and maybe not giving you a full alert, but he's certainly giving you a pucker factor when you're sitting at a freaking a giant water truck that could be fully packed with explosives, and you're out there just searching away, and you see this change and you're going, geez, what's going on? Well, soon we had to do a lot of proofing off diesel fuel to make sure the dogs knew that wasn't part of the target indicator we were looking for.
I can imagine, because they're, like you said, they're not clean. They don't have great handling either. Like, you know,
All
fucking
spilling off the side of the truck. It's fucking all over the place.
shitheads aren't exactly like the most
Nope.
cleanest when they fucking making
Oh, and
bombs. So
while
yeah.
they're siphoning fuel out, dude, like just wild shit. You know what I mean? Just things you don't expect to see. And as a you know, at the time, I think I was a 21-year-old kid, you know, going through this, and I'm like, where am I at right now? This place is wild.
And the weird thing about AMFO is that, so a lot of us in the police world, probably some guys in the military world too, we get ANFO as an odor to train on, and we don't do it because it just fucking stinks, and you don't want the dog indicating on diesel trucks. So you just work on ammonium nitrate. Oh, if he knows ammonium nitrate, he'll do the ANFO. But there's several research companies that have done research that say that's not true.
Right.
If you only train on ammonium nitrate, your dog will walk it on ANFO.
I could see that. I mean, we had trouble with the dogs that that were just trained on ammonium nitrate and never trained on ANFO with the fuel oil mixed into it, and they were not showing the same change of behavior that you would expect on ammonium nitrate. And that was one of the reasons I'm like, guys, you have to train this. We have to train this way. Otherwise, you're going to get dogs that start walking odor, and that's a huge deal.
So was there any time while you were there in Afghanistan, deployed in there, that you were like, thank goodness I had this dog?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of the stuff that would happen is when we would get into a search pit, you know, and we're out there doing the work, is they would shut the vehicle. Like, basically, we were far enough away from the embassy that they would get the vehicle out of there. They would just be like, you can't. We'd get behind the walls. So I didn't get a lot of confirmations, but I got a lot of alerts in country. And it could have been testing. It could have been a number of things. It could have been a vehicle that wanted to create some damage, but just couldn't get close enough to do it. And they wanted to maybe save it for a different time and location. So I definitely know my dog saved my life a few times. I just, you know, as far as like the confirmation of having, you know, the vehicle dismantled right there and EOD called was not something they wanted to. It was like, get out of here, go elsewhere, get away from the building. So yeah, that was kind of the way it went a lot of times for that deployment, because it was very much like you were more in a defensive posture for that deployment.
So do you start in that deployment, because you know time is coming to an end pretty soon for you? You're not going to be in the Marines forever. Are you there then starting to get an interest in the training side of things while you're in country?
Yeah, it piqued my interest. But here's the thing: that was my first tour, or a 4-year enlistment, and I had every intention when I got back from Afghanistan to re-enlist. And when I went to re-enlist, they said, "Sorry, the boat spaces for your MOS are full. You're not going to be if you come back, you're not going to be a dog handler. You're going to be a military police officer with basically what we called a straight leg MP, right?" Mm-hmm. And I said, "Wait a second. I just had this deployment. I've done all this for the Marine Corps. I jumped when basically I said how high when they said jump, and I did it. And when that happened, I got a little upset. I got a little frustrated. I was like, yeah, all I want to do is keep working dogs and keep getting deployed. That's what I want to do. So when they said that I was going to be a straight leg MP, I decided at that point to exit the Marine Corps. That was my cue that it was time for me to move on and figure out what that entailed. And at the time, I didn't know if dogs were going to be part of it. Did I want it? Absolutely, I did. But I didn't know what my career choice was what my career had in store for me at that point. So at some point, I wanted to make it back. It's
amazing how dudes with pens can destroy things that you really like and they're really interested in doing, you know.
Yeah, it's why that was a turning point in my career where I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do right now. So as a guy coming back from a deployment, and now you get upwards of like 6 to 8 months to transition out of the Marine Corps. You get a lot of planning to happen, right? So when I did it, I was a month away from me exiting the Marine Corps. So here I am, like, I'm going, oh my God, I'm getting out of the Marine Corps. What am I going to do? You know, I have this skill set as a dog handler. I have all these deployments, but what job am I going to get, right? Well, what was ramping up at that time, little did I know, was the contracting side of dogs and what that would entail for me, which was a complete game changer in training, in working dogs, in learning from some really cool individuals that kind of helped shape my career a little bit. And then turned me into what I have now. I mean, without those individuals and without that experience, that knowledge in that country, in Iraq, I wouldn't be what I am today.
So where did you land? Who was your first? How did that go? How'd you find out about that when you were getting out? Did they recruit from the Marine Corps? How'd that work?
So I got recruited so you figure I exited the Marine Corps in 2003. I did some side work as and this is a little known fact about me. Not a lot of people know this, but I was a loss prevention agent for Nordstrom. So,
I almost did that for a while too.
Yeah, dude. But I'm telling you, it subdued my adrenaline rush that I needed coming back from, the time that I spent in the Marine Corps on a right at just an extreme level of doing things, and then going, well, what am I going to do now? Okay, I guess I'll go bust shoplifters and get in fights and haul people back into the office, and I did, and I had a lot of really good, I say good, but it was a lot of high intensity stuff that I was able to do. So that fed my fuel for a little while, and then at some point I was like, man, I got to do something here. And just about the time that because I had all these applications into federal agencies, right? Because that was the direction I thought. I think I went with ICE, I went with Federal Protective Services, and the process was very long at the time. I didn't know that it would take a year to go through all this, right? So here I am, like really trying to make sure that I'm focusing my career on something specific, still getting back my 4 years in the Marine Corps at some point, but still doing something I want to do at the same time. So just about the time I started getting a little put off by doing the work I was doing, I got a phone call from a recruiter from Blackwater, and they said, your name was given to us, and you were referred to us, a direct referral. We think you'd be perfect for a position in Iraq. If you would like to do any diplomatic security, any federal, any protection work in Iraq, just let us know, and we'll get you a plane ticket to Moyock, North Carolina, and we'll get you lined up with the training you need, the certs you need, the qualification you need, and we'll get you put in country ASAP.
So Nordstrom is Gladiator school. Who knew?
Yeah, who knew? I didn't even know. Set me up for, and it wasn't the high end Nordstrom, right? It was the Nordstrom rack, which is like,
nice.
Make a little bit lower. So you got a little bit more riffraff that came through there, which was nice.
That's fucking great. I love it.
Yep.
Eric, this is where Eric inserts stories about finding people at Walmart. So you pick up, go to Blackwater. I mean, that's and that was at the time when the contracting was fucking hot and heavy, and it was it was it was wild. There was a lot of shit going on. So where did they send you? Like straight back to where you just came from?
Well, no, because I went to Iraq this time, so I didn't have I was active duty. I didn't make any trips into Iraq. It was all Afghanistan, Saudi. So back to the sandbox basically. But what transpired leading up to that was the whole thing. You get your contract with your year contract that is you're looking at a significant amount of money comparatively to what you're making Marine Corps. And then on top of, even making what I made at Nordstrom Rack was, it was significant. And that was, I don't say the main pull because you still have you had a really good, when I first went there, it was really some of the best, man. You had a lot of special operations guys that were in there, from all walks of life, all branches of the military that were in there doing the work. And it got watered down towards the later years of contracting. But initially going in there, man, it was, these guys were beasts, man, that they were true operators. And a lot of the dog guys were, because you figure, so you look at me, I was a military working dog handler. I had that 3 years of solid experience after 9/11. But most of the handlers over there, so you had all these really elite special operations operators. And then you had cop dogs that were in there. And don't get me wrong, a lot of great cop dog handlers out there. But these guys were the ones that were facilitating the dog side of the security, because that's all that these guys had, sometimes 20 years of experience. And Blackwater's going, well, we want guys with experience, not just, a year of handling experience. We want guys with 15 years of experience. So that was, what we saw was kind of the blended worlds of the initial blend of military working dog handlers in with the 20 years prior service, 15 to 20 years prior service cop dog handlers, and they're blended together in a security role now for Blackwater, which was crazy.
Yeah, they said that I have a friend that did that. He came out of a specialized unit, and he was like that. Those first 3 or 4 years were kind of like he was like those were the golden years.
Yep.
And he wasn't a dog
For your
handler,
bank
but
account.
well, and not that. He said, but he goes, how there's that myth in Vegas where you can get the like the $10 steak and all this shit in the buffets and whatever else. And I'm like, yeah. He was like, I don't know if you've been to Vegas like at all, in any year that started with a 2. He was like, but that shit does not happen anymore. It's $10 every 10 feet there. And he was like, so those first 3 or 4 years, I mean, he's exactly right. I mean, this guy was in one of those units. He wasn't a dog handler, but he did a lot of that shit. And they plucked him straight out, and he was like, hey, they were like, hey, this is what you want to do. And he basically was like, I went back and was working for another government agency, but I was doing the same thing I was doing, except I was wearing khakis and t-shirts.
Right.
That was it. He was like, that was it. He was like, for 3 or 4 years, and then people started getting shot and shit started happening, and then people started getting in trouble, and then all of a sudden, and now, like even now, I saw somebody talking about they had a contract the other day. I'm like, no, you don't. I mean, if you do, it's not like the shit that they were doing then. Like
No.
that's not.
It'll never be that way.
No.
That way again. It honestly, man, it was probably like I called it the wild, wild west. It was just anything goes, anything went at that time. And then you're right. A lot of people started getting in trouble doing stupid things, and it really started putting a spotlight on the contracting world in a negative way, because it missed out on a lot of the positive work we were doing. Especially when Blackwater lost that contract, all the positive work we were doing over there was kind of shadowed by that one incident, that major incident,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and there it just kind of crumbled.
Yeah.
So we're headed towards a direction here of one of the jobs you currently do. But at that point, what is Marine Special Operations? Because I know it's made several iterations. Is it at that point when you're on Blackwater over on the Marine Corps side, is it broken up? What's it called at that point? And what are guys doing?
Yep. So at that point, what you had Marine Corps Special Operations. They did not have a canine program. What they did is they attached military working dog handlers. And at that time, when they did their attachments, these military working dog handlers were some of the best of the best that were really good at what they did with numerous combat deployments, some of them, and a lot of knowledge under their belts when they got attached to these MARSOC units. And then what happened was the Marine Corps Special Operations Unit decided that they wanted to fund their own canine program. So that was an internal choice with them to say, okay, and the way they designed it was unique. It was, in my opinion, one of the better ways that it could have gone down. They structured it in a way that the handlers were not operators. Okay, that the handlers were not designated to be operators. They wanted what they're coined and called within the unit is an enabler, right? And it seems like a really kind of a demeaning term, right? You're only an enabler. You're only an enabler. Well, you're an enabler. You facilitate the work. You facilitate security. You have comm guys that are considered enablers, intel collectors that are considered enablers. So with that, you had kind of, but what it was able to do, and where a lot of units go wrong is if you pull directly from the pool of operators, right? And I use that term loosely as operators. If you pull directly from your source of operators, what happens is with some of the other units out there, you get a very degraded, I say degraded, it's a degraded quality of product, right? Because maybe that guy only has 6 months workup on that dog, and then he gets a year deployment. He comes back, he drops that leash off, and he goes back to his team, never to touch a dog again, right? You have knowledge lost. You have the dog that is maybe confused going into country. You have a lot of things that can go wrong in that picture. The way MARSOC designed the program was they pulled from the pool of MPs, brought into the unit, then went to another training, right? A basic handler course. Even if they were dog handlers, they still had to go to a special operation basic handler course. And what happened during that time was that was an 8-week course that they went to. And on the back end, then we would do a 2-week and I feel bad for even saying this because it wasn't an advanced course, but a 2-week advanced course, right? An advanced course that gave you the skill sets that would get you ready for a deployment. Now, some of those guys had no combat experience, no knowledge at all. Other guys came in with a little bit. And it was just too broad of a spectrum of guys to be operating with some of the units and some of the places that they were going to be going. So we saw kind of an issue that needed to be addressed. So what we did is we took it upon ourselves, myself and one of the other really great trainers. I don't know if I'm not going to mention his name. He is out of the unit now, but just a great, awesome guy, very invested in the program. Him and I decided that we needed to turn that 2 weeks into more like an 8-week advanced course. And in that 8 weeks, these guys are submerged in some of the most intense training that a handler can be put through. And it really prepares them for any deployment that they had downrange, anywhere they went.
So before you get into that, we jumped ahead a little bit. When did you start doing contracting work that revolved around dogs?
Okay, so in 2005 is when I made the trip out to Moyock, North Carolina to go through. And at that point, they called the vetting course, right? The WIPS vetting course. And you had to get vetted as a dog handler, and then you had to get vetted as a personal protection specialist, right? Each had their own billet. And if you did both, then you were a dog handler. Typically, you were a dog handler first, and then you were a protection specialist second. And few guys had both. We call it dual hat, but both the dog side and the protection specialist side. I was one of those guys lucky enough to do that. So I was able to get put on various teams that were maybe a little more active than other units, because I could serve 2 roles. So I was a little bit more useful to the elements that were going out into some of the venues in Baghdad. I was first stationed in Kirkuk, was my first duty station with Blackwater, and that was late 2005.
So at some point do you get into the training side of contracting, leading up to working at the place I worked at before I was there? How did we get there?
Yep. So when making the transition into the contracting world, I really focused on my trainer abilities, and I had some good mentors there in Kirkuk that were able to guide me the right way, point me to some good material, point me to some good courses. So when I went on leave, I would go to these courses, and I would really build up my knowledge as a trainer. And then soon, when I got, they pulled everything out of Kirkuk and moved it down to Baghdad in 2006 is when I basically got put into more of a training role, setting up training for the guys, making sure the dogs were certified the way they needed to be. And that role never left for the entirety of my time, all the way into about 2011 timeframe. Is that training role for me stuck. I was able to go back, work some dogs with Cobra. I was able to do a trainer's course with Cobra, work some of their green dogs on Odor, and really kind of build up my skills as a trainer, and focus towards that career as I saw it going at that point.
And then at that point, Ryan, they get the West Coast. They had the East Coast contract, Cobra did. And then they get the West Coast. Do you end up going back out San Diego and work that for a little bit?
Yeah. So when I left, I made the transition in 2009. I made the transition from Blackwater to the Triple Canopy when Blackwater lost that contract. That was like a shirt change, right? You throw on a different polo and you go back, you do the same work you were doing. That's what I did. I actually separated from the dog side because they were little weird hitch in my career was the State Department was getting really driven by a product called Nest. Okay. And that was something that they wanted as the only training aids that we would use in country were Nest. And I come from a background, I'm like, no, I need aids that are from my country, from this country that I'm in, that I can make sure, because it was a lot of Iranian made products that we were finding. And I needed to make sure that my dogs were, gonna indicate on these explosives that are being found in country, not Nest. And I didn't have anything against it other than I didn't know the product well, and they're trying to make me go back and imprint all these dogs on Nest because they were all walking away from the odor. Not one of my dogs showed a change of behavior on nest odor when I was there, and it was frustrating. So the State Department mandated that we do away with all of our training aids, and I had 2 big bunkers full of training aids that were found in country that were very useful to my training program. And they said, no, we're gonna do away with that. You're gonna do the nest, and you're gonna like it. And I said, well, I wrote a big letter to the State Department, to the RSO office there, and I didn't agree with it. And they said, if you don't like it, then you can push on to a different team. So I decided to make that transition and go to a low pro team for about a year in country, where I was a low pro operator working. It was funny because we'd get these brand new 7 Series BMWs in country that were fully armored BMWs, and you take them and you rub sandpaper down the side of them, right? Just blast them out. You put some dice in the windshield, and you tint the windows.
How satisfying was that?
It was satisfying. It hurt a little at first, but I'm like, you know what? This is pretty awesome, man.
It's not my car. Fuck these guys. Yeah.
I just wanted like sandblasted, dude. And that's what we do. Just run sandpaper down it. And you really made it look like it blended in. And even then, you can't make a 7 Series BMW blend into Iraq. You just can't do it. It's hard, but we would try.
That's funny.
Yes.
My wife has a 4 Series right now, and hey, honey, I'm going to get some sandpaper.
Yeah, we're gonna make it look like a shit box.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I get a bullet in the back.
Interesting part of my career at that point. And then I decided to head back, and that's when it was an opportunity that presented itself that I would go with NSW and take that transition and be in a primary instructor role with as a contractor still, which was difficult. But I knew that was the next phase in my career that I needed to do to better myself, better my knowledge as an instructor.
So when I showed up there, and it was October of 2013, you were already gone. How long had you been gone by that point?
October of 2013. So you missed me by a month.
Wow.
You missed me by a month, because I was September is when I left down there and jumped right into it would have been October. So October 1, I think, was my start date.
Yeah. 21st, I rolled into town.
Yep.
Into San Diego. So
yep.
We're gonna go ahead and take a break. We get back, we'll get into that phase of your life where we're still at, and kind of the pet side of stuff real quick, and what you got going on for the future. So everybody stick around. Don't fast forward through the commercials. If you did, because I know you did, at the bottom of the commercials in the show notes is all the discount codes. Ted and I do not have them memorized, so don't ask us. Go back through the episodes, because people message me and Ted, hey, what's the discount code for so-and-so? We go on to our thing and look at the show notes.
I go on to fucking iTunes.
I can barely remember my ATM PIN card number. So
exactly.
So anyways, we'll be right back. All right, guys, this episode has been brought to you by great sponsors of ours. Please don't skip through this. Take a listen to them. One of our oldest sponsors and great friends of ours are the people down at Highland Canine down in North Carolina. I really like them. We see them at all the conferences. I know a lot of people have been to their school for dog trainers. They've been on the podcast. Highland Canine, they're a full service canine and pet dog training business where they can train you to be a trainer. They can get you a dog. They have handler classes. They have supervisor classes. They have trainers courses for just LE. They have them for anybody who wants to be in the dog business, be a dog trainer of any kind. Check them out. Their website is tacticalpolicecaninetraining.com, tacticalpolicecaninetraining.com. If you are smart, you'll go down there in the winter. It is North Carolina. It is warm. You get to work dogs. It's no joke school, guys. You're not going down there for a month and rushing through it. They're actually trying to make you real deal dog trainers. Tacticalpolicecaninetraining.com.
Next is a sponsor that's been with us for quite a while, Dogtra. I love Dogtra stuff, and they continually keep bringing out new products. One of the things that I've been using a lot lately is the new Tone Box. If you're a pet trainer, or if you train a lot of police officers, and I harp at my guys all the time about timing, and this thing literally kind of pairs to the remote, and when you're using the remote, whether you're using Nick, Constant, or Vibrate, it makes a noise, so you can get the timing down 100% consistent. And so I can demonstrate how to do an out with an e-collar immediately, quickly, and it is so effective that I can't believe that it took me forever to figure it out to get that. They've also got these new comfort feather like titanium things that go on the collars that are fantastic for making sure we got contact. It actually has 6 points, and this comes in 2 sizes, and it's a titanium feather thing. They're awesome. They got comfort contact points for the bark collars, the YS 600. One of my favorite things. I have about 50 of them at the kennel, and it is dead silent. And I put them on all the pet dogs, and I can leave them on because they have the comfort contact points, and they're fantastic. All this stuff you can get at dogtra.com. And if you use the discount code WDR10, you get 10% off a single item over $200. So that covers the ball trainer, that covers the 1900 Ask Hands Free, which is my personal favorite for all the big dogs. It covers the 2-dog system, the 202C, which I use for the 2-dog pet guys, and fantastic. So dogtra.com, or go to @DogtraOfficial on all the socials. That's Facebook, Instagram, all those places. So hit them up, dogtra.com.
Guys, I don't even shop any other sites when I'm looking for everything for dogs. Our one-stop shop for anything pet dog training and police dog training, hunt dog training, anything you need, you can find at rayallen.com. They have been doing it forever. We have a great relationship with them. Again, they're at all the conferences. You can stop up and talk to them. They have more stuff there than any place. rayallen.com. They are amazing. We have a great, really, really good relationship with those guys. Like I said, I get on their website. I do not look anywhere else. I just get on Ray Allen. Why should I? Fill up my cart, pay it, boom, shipping. Here we go. Everything's coming. rayallen.com. And guess what? We do have a discount code for them. Working Dog Radio for 10% off. It's all one, Working Dog Radio, and it's all caps. Check them out, rayallen.com.
I'm not too ashamed to admit that I used our own discount code to buy stuff for the kennel. We have American Aluminum next. They're a new sponsor for moving forward. They have been around for quite a while. They manufacture a wide variety of products, from the high-quality cam lockers and toolboxes to a huge line of products designed to meet the ever-changing needs of law enforcement community. Back in 1992, due to the demand for safe, secure transport for a nearby law enforcement department's canine, they introduced the very first Easy Rider canine. They have continuously grown and expanded products, catering to the needs and wants of the valued customers and high-profile clientele. Over the years, as the needs have changed, they have evolved and expanded their products to include inmate transport systems, canine training aids, canine inserts, contraband, containment, and animal control systems, just to name a couple things. So you can find them at easyrideronline.com. That is Easy Echo Zulu Rider Online.com. You can find them on the socials at American Aluminum Accessories, and then you can hit them up toll free, 1-800-277-0869. You don't have to worry about writing all that down. We're going to put it in the show notes. So just scroll down to the bottom, write it down, click the link, takes you straight there onto your phone.
Our first sponsor we ever had, he's our ride or die. He's been with us since the beginning, is Arno over at ALM Canine Equipment. His stuff is so good. Ted, gets suits. Ted's suit, he's had it for a long time. Arno's fixed it. He's taken 1 million bites on it. It still holds up. The thing's amazing. I've got a suit from him. I love it. Use it all the time. But the main thing that I really love about Arno is his hidden sleeves are ridiculously amazing. They are the best. And his tugs. I usually buy tugs from Arno by the box load. He'll send me a whole bunch of them. I hand them out to the handlers, new handlers when they come in, experienced handlers. They last for a long time. They're amazing. The craft work is great. Arno's doing all the sewing there. He's got pre-made suits. He can do custom-made suits, everything you need out there. And he's out there in sunny Las Vegas. Get on his website, check him out, almcanineequipment.com, almcanineequipment.com. Discount code WD Radio, all caps, 10% off your first order. Check them out. All right, everybody, we are back, Working Dog Radio, broadcasting The Bite. Another great episode with our friend Dustin Winn. So we left off. He was out at NSW back in San Diego. Nicer environment than Iraq and Tennessee, probably some parts of it, and North Carolina, different places. So you're at NSW and you end up moving up the road in San Diego County up to the MARSOC part. How did that come about?
Yeah, so Well, it was that same individual that one of the individuals I had been kind of mentored with Blackwater, made the move to MARSOC maybe a year before I did, maybe a little less. And here I am, and this guy was a mountain of a man. He was huge, just a big guy. And I remember taking our dogs up from Coronado up to the vet on Pendleton, and I'm sure you've been there.
Mhm.
What happened was we walked in for some routine vet stuff, and as I walked around the corner, there was a giant guy standing in the corner, and it just happened to be him. And I didn't know where he had left after that moment. So when I turned and saw who it was, I shot the shit with him for a while, and he explained that MARSOC was going to be opening a West Coast kennels. At the moment, they just had a deployment set up that would eventually be transitioned into a multi-million-dollar training facility that would house a number of dogs, up to 12 dogs is what he had said. And he goes, hey, if you're looking for a spot, this could be a nice spot for you to be. And now, by the way, it's not a contractor spot. You're going to be a federal employee. So that was a huge appeal to me, because it was a way to kind of get back some of my active duty time. And plus have a little bit more responsibility for a program, because when you're a contractor for that kind of program, you're more of a, hey, you guys should do this, right? You're more in like hey, I suggest you do it this way. When you're in a federal position, you hold a little bit more weight, and you're able to kind of guide a program the way that you should be able to as an instructor, as a trainer, with the knowledge and the background that you have to guide a program in the right direction. When that doesn't happen, things can fall apart or become a little stagnant at times, and that's what we've seen, or I've seen with the programs I've been involved with. So when I did that, I applied for it. I went through the same hiring process as everybody else did. I had to do my USA Jobs application and await the interview, and I interviewed for it, and I ended up getting the position in 2013, and I've been there since. So it was a wild ride up to that point, right? Getting to now being back in federal service with the government, and then being fully in charge of a West Coast kennel for the training side, instructor training. So my role and responsibility was training the handlers, training the dogs to work with the handlers, integrating that team together, and then putting that team into a special operations team, which would then be able to operate that dog, right? And the whole thing was this dog, everybody on that team should be able to operate that dog, not just the handler, but everybody that's on that team should know the ins and outs of that dog, the full capability, everything they need to know. And if they need to, operate the dog when it comes time. So really a unique spot.
Yeah, the moving from the to the GS position from a contract position, especially, man, if you're trying to make a home there,
yeah,
and not live in an apartment with 3 other dudes like I was, hoping that the contract got renewed, going forward. That's, even if it's less money, even it has to be more of a, like, just such a comforting feeling there.
Oh, for sure. The stability alone of having that federal position, knowing it's not, well, I mean, I say it's not going to go anywhere. The likelihood of that position going somewhere is significantly less than the contractor realm, where you're living on pins and needles. And when you're supporting a family, or you're trying to take care of business, and like you said, make a home, or not rent an apartment, that can be a very nerve-wracking thing when you just don't know your next move. You have no idea. And that's a contract. So in 2005, when I went in the contracting world, to the point where I was leaving the contract world in 2013, I lived in those pins and needles for all that time, right? Because you just didn't know when the contract was going to end or be renewed, if it was going to be renewed, if they did away with the program altogether. You just didn't know. So that was a huge weight off my shoulders when it came time for that transition to a GS position, and being able to be in an instructor role.
So I know I'm sure you love your guys, love all the people involved in the program, everybody you've dealt with in the Marine Corps. They start off bare bones, concrete slab. So we're going to build this multi-million-dollar facility that can house X number of dogs. How long did that actually take?
So when I got there in 2013, the kennels were set up on cement slabs with deployment kennels, right? And these were kennels that were, from deployments overseas, brought back and set up. And Not that the dogs weren't used to it, but it just wasn't fitting for a special operations unit, right? So when they went through and they started saying, hey, this is the building design, I was actually able to have a somewhat of a say in the way I designed, not the building, so to speak, because that was very much from an engineering standpoint, what they needed to have. But when it came time for the obstacle course or the confidence course, I had a direct hand in every bit of what I wanted for that obstacle course. And to this day, that's one of the, I mean, in any unit you go to, if they've been to our facility, or now our East Coast facility that has the same confidence course, it's intense, dude. It's wild. I have a 15-foot rappel tower, a fast rope tower in the middle of my obstacle course that I can use at any time to get to suspend a dog, get a dog used to heights, rappels, fast ropes, you name it. I can do all the groundwork right there. So, you know, it went from a very bare bones facility to then expanding into a multi-million-dollar building. You know, kennel runs, some of the nicest kennel runs around, and then you push into the obstacle course. That was, in my opinion, there wasn't an obstacle course at the time in a military unit that equaled it. It was very, very intense and a fun obstacle course to kind of design.
So speaking of which, there's a video that has gone viral. So, you know, at this time you're running, and you've been there since 2013.
Yep.
You've designed the obstacle course, and then they put it out at the East Side too. And was that a pretty instrumental role? Did that play an instrumental role in the success of the deployments with the guys and the teams and the dogs, on the environmental side and the exposure, moving like downrange?
It did, because what it did is it boosted confidence. You know, some of the obstacles, obviously, you know, lowerings and climbing and stuff like that. I mean, did the guys ever have to really go into those kind of tactical movements? Maybe not. But what it did is it instilled some confidence in the dog that it can navigate those obstacles, right? So you're boosting confidence in the dog, then the handler's confidence goes through the roof because it sees the dog doing the obstacles. You're doing a bunch of environmental exposure, which in my opinion is some of the most critical stuff you can do to a dog that's going to be in some really intense situations. You try to replicate those the best you can, but it's inevitable. There's going to be things that pop up that you're like, whoa, didn't see that coming. You know, I wish I could have saw that. I might have trained for it, but that's wild. I never would have trained that. So trying to think outside the box on some of the things that we did was extremely important. You know, and designing it and then setting the guys up for success, you know, really giving the guys kind of free run and doing it, like balance beams that are very tight, the handler getting up. So in my opinion, if a dog's going to do the obstacle, the handler better be able to complete the obstacle as well. And that's always been my mentality and will be my mentality going forward is if you're operating a dog, a working dog, and it's your partner, you complete what that dog does with you. Always. It's a team.
So when I was out there after you, the Navy itself had a moratorium on any helo, fast roping or anything operations, because I think there was a patent lawsuit about a piece of equipment in the stop descender, as what I believe. So my time working for Cobra on the West Coast, we did 0 helicopter ops at all.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't mess with it at all. And I was super disappointed in that. I really wanted to get into that. I had never done it on the civilian side, so it would have been a learning curve for me as well. And then I would have been able to facilitate that type of training
going forward
to do it. But for you guys, there's a bunch of videos that have come out. So we talked to Travis Bobo in the last 2 episodes, and I asked him, I said about teaching like rappelling or anything off of a tower or anything like that. And he felt his entire time, he never saw a dog actually really like it, never get comfortable with it. They would just make them do it. And the way they were doing things, no dog actually ever liked it, even though they knew that at the end there was if they did A + B = C, they knew at the end there was something there. But you guys have done something completely different. Can you talk about that?
So, you know, I guess it kind of goes back to that crawl, run, or that crawl, walk, run, sprint mentality. We start very basic. Like I said, it's confidence building in the dog, right? So if I'm able to suspend a dog, pull it up off the ground, and don't get me wrong, I've had a lot of dogs that really hated being off the deck, suspended by their harness. But we did a lot of desensitizing that, a lot of positive reinforcement, the best we could, depending on how long the guy had before a deployment. And not all dogs fully liked it. But so here you go 2 ways with this. You do a bunch of training and you really dial in the dog's ability to go through the motions with you and not give a shit in the world. But then you have the other dogs that are very much, they don't like it. They flail around. They really become, for all intents and purposes, become assholes when you get them in certain situations. But does that dog work when it comes off that position, right? Does it have the environmental stability to then go to work immediately coming into it, right? Is it too shocked to even deal with it, or does it go right to work? With the guys that, or the dogs that we had more time to focus on, and what we saw was just a more well-rounded. I mean, the dogs that I had, the dogs that I trained, and I spent a lot of time with, making sure they were desensitized to a number of things. A lot of times it was heights. It was getting dogs on fast ropes and rappels, jumping out of the helicopter with a helo cast, a bunch of the things that would be really dicey for a lot of dogs, and most dogs would not be okay with it. Every one of my dogs that I had that I was in charge of before they were passed off to another handler did not mind it at all. It was something, as soon as I picked my dog up, she slumped into the harness and just waited for me to take the step out of the helicopter, or she waited for me to take her and set her out of the helicopter while I maintained control of that fast rope. And then I set the fast rope up, the descender, a lot different than most. I do the guts of 550 cord. I tie off to the fries bar to my descender. That way, when I weight the rope, I'm not having to. I'm sure you've seen it where you have to do the pull tab to release it as a safety. I didn't like that. That left too much room for error. I've had to kick release too many fast rope devices off ropes because the gate, or the hook gets stuck in the gate of the fast rope descender, and then I have a guy hanging up there on a fast rope descender that's still connected to the fries bar. They can't go anywhere, that has a dog hanging next to him. And it's a real shitty situation for any handler to be in. So I've had to rear back, grab the fast rope, the fries bar, kick that descender so it sends the gate loose so that descender can go down the rope. So what I came up with was, first of all, and this was in conjunction with Justin Melnick, was widening that safety hole where you hook the safety in, widening that so you didn't have the issues with the gate getting that gate getting stuck inside there, which created a lot of hangups. Probably in my career, I probably dealt with 10 or 12 good hangups on a fast rope, a couple of which I had to cut loose, which is never a good thing, but that's what we had to do. Others, I mean, it really just depended on what the dog would show us. I mean, we were really careful about integrating dogs into that. And because we had the fast rope tower in our obstacle course, I mean, I could do 15-foot slides all day long with a dog and desensitize them. That way, when they got in the helicopter, I mean, yeah, you're dealing with rotor wash now, but we would do a lot of desensitizing to the helos as well before we got in and did any fast rope work.
How did you widen those holes? Is that a Dremel tool, or
that was a
company to build you one?
The company now, I believe makes them larger. I bored it out myself. I just took and bored it out because I knew that it was a concern. But with that, I mean, you're going through R&D as well. Some of this equipment, you're still dealing with some R&D out there, where you need to help the company learn a little bit about what they're doing with their product, right? Because we're on the front line use of the product, and they need to take some guidance from us as well.
Yeah, some of these companies, Petzl and some of these other ones, have been doing it forever.
Yeah.
Forever. And still, I'm sure, Ted, when you were doing the mountain stuff.
Yeah, in a former life, I worked for them and for Black Diamond. And when the first generation Gregory, like, I remember that thing, which is basically the device that you guys are using, but it's this fucking bit. Well,
exactly.
It'd smash your head if it fell on you.
Well, yeah, the one that we used was like, I mean, you can't, if you listen to these kids, I mean, it wasn't huge, but I mean, there's several versions of those things, but it's basically just a friction. It's a friction
device.
Yeah. And so, but they were super fucking touchy. The first generation Gregory's was like, you fucking touch those things. And I mean,
you were dropping.
If you were on a static line, you were definitely going to know you were on a fucking static line when you let go of the lever. Believe me. Yeah. I've been there, done that. So
yeah, I've used that device as well on some dog inserts. Just trying to figure out what works best. And for me, I'll be honest with you, a Rescue 8 was one of the easiest devices to use, and it never failed me, right? So we did a lot of Rescue 8 descends and out of helicopters and things like that, because I can easily control the rate of speed with a dog.
Right. So one of the other things that you there's a lot of Eric's doing it right now. So the helo casting stuff, right? Like getting the dog out of the water. There's the old joke about getting a cat into a bathtub, but so everybody, like all the videos I see, like one, you guys are on like Olympic diving board like things, right? And then there's an adventure helicopter, and so like there, and if you can't see me, like I'm sitting
on YouTube, damn it.
Yeah, go to YouTube. But yeah, I mean, if you're watching YouTube, but you're sitting on the edge of the helicopter and you're holding this Malinois out in front of you, and you just kind of like fucking butt scoot and just pitch his ass off as you go off at the same time. So how did that whole process come up? Like, I mean,
so we went through some trial error on that too, right? Because the dogs have their harness, they have their vest they're wearing, and it has a top handle and a back ass handle. And what we were doing first is we were walking up and taking that dog, grabbing, so right hand would be top of the harness, left hand would be back of the harness. And what you do is you would take the dog as you're stepping out, you would swing the dog in front of you, causing momentum to step you out of the aircraft, and then you would fall, you'd fall the 10 or 15, 20 feet, whatever it is, into the water. Well, what wasn't accounted for is rotor wash and how slippery that shit is when you're talking about getting close to the water, right? So you had these guys getting up there and they're trying to pull, this 70, 80 pound Malinois up and swing them as they're stepping out of the aircraft. And it created a huge, I mean, I saw so many handlers bust their ass, trying to step and slip and fall back. And so it just became a little bit more of a consideration when we started developing some other TTPs in the way of inserting using the shoulder holes now of the harness. And there's a whole phase-in process to that as well, right? Because I'm never going to take a dog, grab it by the shoulder holes and step out of an aircraft into the water. I'm just never going to do that. And if you did, then it would have to be something you needed to do very hastily. And it would be a requirement at that point. But from a training standpoint, it just wouldn't make any sense because you're not setting the dog up for success at all, or the handler for that matter.
Yeah, no, I can imagine, because watching it, I'm like, I wonder what the story is, because it was because every video I've ever seen is exactly like everybody's following a procedure. And I'm like, it's not real intuitive, because we call those handles midget toss handles. All my SWAT guys, I'm like, like the SWAT operator. That's what I tell the guys that are not dog handlers. I'm like, it's a fucking midget toss handle. And they're like, oh, and immediately they know why I call it that. Right. And I'm like, pick his ass up. Right. So
pick his ass up.
And so watching you do that, I'm like, I wonder what the story is behind that. Now I know motherfuckers falling down.
Yeah. And even with the dog, I don't care if the dog's 45, 75, whatever. I mean, and size is it's very relevant when you're talking about, a 60, right? So you're talking about a 60 that you have to pretty much duck walk the dog, and you're dragging this dog, you're kind of waddling up to the side of the aircraft because you can't sit down on the side, because if you sit down and you push that dog away from you, well, then you're going to go right out of the aircraft and land on top of the dog. So there's a lot of different methods to each different platform out there, air insert platform that we have. The Huey's easy because you kind of scoot your ass up to the side, you slide your dog up, you roll your dog onto your chest, you step onto the skid, and then you step out of the aircraft, punching that dog out in front of you, and then you fall down to the ground that way.
Yeah. So everybody listening to this has swung a big ass kettlebell. They know what you're talking about.
That's exactly
not
what it is.
One that fights back and might be pushing the other way and wiggling and having an off day and everything. Yeah. So most of the videos that I've seen that we attribute to you and your guys out there, it sounds kind of like that Huey type, where we always see them, they're out and then they step off. Some of those are high, man. Some of those videos, I'm like, holy shit, water hurts.
Yeah.
So the pool, the highest we go to the pool is about a 25-foot drop. But the building blocks you're leading up to in that is you're going from being able to pick the dog up and hold the dog out in front of you, right? So you're just going through the motions away from the pool first, and then you start doing this closer to the pool. But before I ever let the guys cast with a dog, what they need to do is they need to get a ruck that is the weight or the same feeling of a dog. And they need to start doing reps with that off the side of the pool. Then they do reps off the high dive. I get comfortable with their methods, with their procedures on the high dive, and then they come out and they start punching the dog out over the side of the pool, and then they do step offs into the side of the pool, right? And we do a lot of positive reinforcement that way. Most of the dogs at that point have swimming, are already proficient swimmers, but I've had a few that are not. They've never done a swim package leading up to that. So you can imagine the dog hitting the water and the dog just going upright, just slapping away, right? Just not even knowing how to plane out. So, we've had to take it back steps that way, because I don't want a dog to then become fearful of the water. So we have to back it way up and just do swims themselves. And we're pretty good about identifying dogs that need a little bit longer swim inoculation before they get into the helocast. So once they do that, then they go to the 25 or the 10-foot high dive. I'll move them up to the 15-foot high dive. And for my senior handlers, the guys that are very knowledgeable with the procedure, I move them up to the 25-foot high dive. And it's kind of like a farewell kind of thing, right? Like, hey, I'm putting you on the 25-foot tower because I trust you and I know you're gonna do good for the dog. And then they get up there and rock out a 25-foot cast off the tower. And it looks really cool because the guys do great form coming off of it. And then once they do that, then we start integrating into the air insert platforms. I've done, when I do a static cast, so a lot of my guys that are just learning, I make them do a static cast. So I bring it to like a rescue swimmer hover, which is about a 20-foot hover. And it's static. So I know that there's not going to be forward momentum, reduced forward momentum. They're still going to go forward a little bit, but it's not going to be at 10 knots forward and 10 feet off the deck. It's going to be 20 feet off the deck and, maybe a couple knots moving forward, not much at all. And then they start doing that and they rep that. And then we get to full on combat deployments where you're shaking out, a Zodiac out the back of an aircraft. You're pushing that boat out with a operator for it. And then you're just following everything out. And then you're casting that individual right into the water. And then you're all swimming to the boat to complete a training lane swimming up to the beach. And we swim up to, I do 2,000 meter open water swim quals for my guys with their dog.
I would drown.
Yeah. You guys were using those Remington harnesses though. Did they have the it was aerial something systems at the time or whatever?
Good.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. I know the national sales manager's name too. I'm having a total brain fart. But the dogs had the life jackets, right? Did they have them on?
Yeah, they had. So what we had the OTBs, right? The big over the beach bags. Right. You could basically put a dog up on and swim them. Like say, some part of the qual is 1,000 meters where you're pushing the dog, where the dog is preserving energy. Then you're 1,000 meters off the beach and you push the dog forward from there to the beach. The dog has to swim through the surf with you, get up and then clear a beach. That's standard stuff, but it is certainly when you start talking about surf, adds a whole nother element to anything you do in the water, which the surf is kind of that great equalizer when it comes to being in the water with it.
Oh yeah, some of the best Instagram accounts are the ones where people are just getting wrecked by surf. Yeah. Girls getting hurt, drunk people doing things. Yes, exactly. So I can imagine marine handlers doing stupid shit.
Oh yeah, I got a really good video of it was my GoPro attached to my helmet watching another handler swim his dog in through the surf. And it was, it was calm and it was eerily calm. And I looked behind us and we were the last two swimmers within the team. And behind me, I saw this rogue wave that was, in the video, it doesn't look nearly as big as what it was, but it was out of nowhere. It came behind us and it rolled up everybody in that team because it came out of nowhere. We didn't think we were inside the surf break yet. And this thing came up behind us and just rolled us all, including the dog. And the dog recovered well, but certainly dogs he got shook up in that whole deal.
Yeah, he's like, what the hell?
Yeah, you put me in a washing machine.
Right, they don't get that. So
nope.
All right, so as in the last couple years, we've started to see, while you're still doing that, you started your own pet side business, North County Canine. That's Canine is spelled out, correct?
Yeah, Canine spelled out, and training on the end of that as well. North County Canine Training is the full business name, but we go on Instagram or TikTok as North County Canine.
Mm-hmm. So you, like me and Ted and Retland and a bunch of other guys, have realized that there is a lot of ability to make good money doing the pet stuff and actually become a better dog trainer, in my opinion.
Sure.
Doing the pet side. Where are we at with that? What's going on? And Tell us about the viral puppy obstacle course video. I'm sure there'll be fast roping and helo casting puppies pretty soon, but
I'm already
that
working
thing's
on
on
that.
everywhere. That video is everywhere.
It is. I've seen it pop up on numerous different accounts, and you know, some I've never heard of, some that are very well known. But yeah, so about a year ago, we kicked off this business, not really knowing, because it was COVID, right? It was actually a little over about a year and a few months ago, kicked off the business, not knowing what COVID had in store for us, or for any business for that matter. But we started small, training a few dogs at a time, just kind of going through the motions. Didn't do a lot of marketing. It was all word of mouth, on referrals coming back to us for additional training. And what started as a very small time has now transformed into kind of a multi-purpose canine training land, is what I call it. It's 1,800 acres out here in North County, San Diego. We got a bunch of structures.
Money right there, buddy. Woo.
Yeah, well, I don't. So 1,800 acres in Southern California, anywhere in there. I don't own the land. It's a leased land. So, but what we get is full access to the resources that it has on it. Right. There's a graffiti barn on the property that is, maybe you've seen it before. I've done a couple posts in there of it. But it looks like you're in downtown LA, man. It's a building that is completely graffitied out. But it's wide open. It's 20,000 square foot warehouse that is huge, that we get to go out, and it's a little playground in there. So we do a lot of odor imprint down there. We do a lot of, bite training down there. And then I got an indoor barn that we use for training, but it's really evolved into much more than I ever thought it would be. Primarily because there's such a high demand for dog training right now. And a lot of it has to do with COVID. Everybody got a dog. Everybody wanted to have a dog. Everybody needed a companion or a friend during COVID. And that's what it's turned into. And now everybody's realizing that their dog isn't so well behaved, because now they're going to work and they're away from the dog, and the dog's destroying things inside the house that it didn't destroy before, when it had eyes on all the time.
Or they're taking the dog in public, and he's like, "You mean there are more of you motherfuckers here?"
Yeah.
Or like, I can't tell you the number of dogs that I've done, and they see other people, and they're like, "Who is this? Where did you come from?"
Yeah, and everyone in California takes their dogs everywhere.
Yeah.
It's Ohio's not like that.
Yeah, California has. I mean, the number of dogs that you see at any given time when you're out and about is insane. I don't care if you're making a trip to Home Depot or if you're going to the beach in Carlsbad. There's dogs everywhere. There's no shortage of people walking dogs, which makes for a great training environment, but it also makes for a great recruiting, marketing business for me when I'm walking a dog around that's well behaved and is disciplined and is neutral in the environment. And then you have this other dog that's going, batshit crazy. And I have one of my trainers go up and pass him a card or something like that and just say, "Hey, if you need any help or need any guidance, just let us know. We're here for you." So, the marketing that we do is not, it's nothing other than, I say marketing. We've done that puppy course, and I didn't know it was going to be the marketing tool that it was for us. Right. Yeah. Because now I have everybody that hits me up about, "Hey, I'm getting a puppy and I want it at North County Canine, and I want to run through the course at least once a week." And that's kind of what it's evolved for us. Is now this course gets daily use with puppies that just need maybe a little bit of confidence boosting, maybe some neutral environmentals, and maybe they're not used to water. And now I set up the water trays with 6 inches of water, and the puppy's got to run through the water, or climbing things, navigating the spider web that I have in there. There's crazy things. I got a little kill house that's like a maze, right? That little orange box, or that big orange box that you see in the course, is a maze inside there that I can kind of transition and make different. So really cool, where the dog, I try to keep the dog on his toes the best I can, because my dog, the one I've had that is a little bit older now, she's 5 months. The dog that I had was raised on that course and is a master of that course, no matter how I set it up, no matter how I try to trick her. So now I'm adding an additional, I call it, it's a course that's ever growing. It's a living course. I'm always adding to it, modifying it. And it's not the same always. I change it up every time I run it.
You fucking guys that can be outdoors like all the time year round, it really irritates me, because here you got a few months and then there's no outdoor stuff. You're not gonna have a puppy obstacle course here unless you want it ruined. We're lucky to be in an environment that we can do this year round, right? Because even in the wintertime, I can run dogs through that course. And honestly, the course was a vision. It's always been a thing of mine. It's like something I kind of dreamed of doing, but I'm like, I don't have the room for it. I don't have the money for it. I don't have the time for it.
But what I did is I made the money for, I made time for it. I put the money towards it. And I really wanted to develop better dogs. So when I did this, I saw a bunch of these COVID puppies that were really in rough shape, that had no real socialization, shitty environmentals, were afraid of their own shadow. And what I did is I was like, okay, I got to find a way to fix this, or at least help the situation a little bit. And if I can take these puppies and expose them to this, then what kind of adult dogs am I producing right now? Mm-hmm. So, and genetics plays a huge role in that. But if I can help a little bit of a dog that doesn't have quite as good a genetics as some of these rock star dogs have, then, maybe I'm just producing a better end result, a better adult dog down the road.
So in the pet side, people call it behavioral modification, but dealing with problem dogs is where the money is where,
yep.
If you're a trainer that says no to those, cool, that's cool. But guys like us, we end up handling those. Now that I know what I know about dog behavior from learning from pets, not as much from high drive working dogs, do you find, if you think in your mind back to when you were training for Blackwater or whomever, even overseas, the asshole dogs that, knowing what you know now, actually probably weren't assholes. They just might have needed a smaller kennel and some more crate time and things like that. Do you ever think like that?
Oh, 100%, man. Because I have the time, now with behavior modification or problem solving dogs, right? Then you just didn't have the time to do it, right? Because these dogs were you just had to put them with the right handler that could handle the dog. And you didn't think about the training on that side, the behavior modification that needed to happen. Which now I have nothing but time to go, okay, how can I fix this dog? Because maybe this dog, you're right, maybe this dog isn't an asshole. Maybe I just have to do things a little different. This dog doesn't learn the same as other dogs. I have to do things different for this dog. So it definitely, the pet dogs have made me a better trainer all around when it comes to any working dog out there. Pet dogs above that have really assisted me in becoming a much better trainer. 100% they have.
I know I'm better at e-collars. Ever as a police dog.
Yeah, no way.
Oh yeah.
My e-collar is used way different than I did, back in the day when e-collars were used in not the way that they should have been intended to use.
Yeah, it's great to see that, man, and it looks like you because I know you're not going to do the military stuff forever, and it's looked like you guys got a nice little setup thing going. Give us the like on Instagram and Facebook where people can find you on there, because I'm telling you guys, if you go look, there's some really, really good content on there.
Yeah, well, our website will direct you to our Instagram as well, and that's northcountycanine.com. And then if you hit us up on Instagram or TikTok, it's at North County Canine. And then same with Facebook at North County Canine. So pretty easy. You just kind of the full name, North County
Canine.
Canine.
Not letter K.
Canine is spelled out.
Yeah,
not like the K-9 or the K9. It's spelled out the word Canine. Yep.
What city is that in, or close?
So
to?
we're located at Fallbrook Valley Center. We're kind of in like an area, but we're north of San Diego by about 45 minutes. So I can get to the city in 45 minutes if I need to, the airport.
Which is still in the county. The craziest thing for me was, I remember when I was there, I had I don't know if it was a weekend or whatever, and I drove up into I think I went to San Bernardino to see somebody. In the county I live in, or the county I work in, I don't know, you can be from one side of the county to the other in 25 minutes.
Yep.
I think I was like an hour or so on the road. I'm like, I'm still in San Diego County.
It's wild that
people over here in Ohio, it's not like that. It's a weird thing.
Yep. And same in Minnesota. I can drive from coast to coast on a county in 20 minutes and be the other side. And I'll on the way to the cities, which is a 45-minute drive for me or an hour drive for me, I'm crossing 4 different counties on the way there. So it's a huge change.
Yeah, that's big. Ted, what about you? Where can you be found?
Ted_Summers on Instagram, and then Torchlight Canine, letter K number 9, and then Torchlight Pets, and then working_dog_writer. You'd think after 3 years I'd figure that shit out. working_dog_radio. At this point, if you're listening to this and you don't know what that is yet, then I'm sorry. But that's where we also put some of our Patreon shit up. Eric's been putting videos up. I'm getting some pointers, Alicia is going to pick up a bunch of pointer puppies Monday, I think, when I leave to go to Billings, Montana. So we're going to be doing a bunch of puppy imprinting and all that kind of shit too. So I'm going to do a bunch of videos for that. I wrote an article that I put up there about the difference between alert and TFR and the whole legal thing. The legal definition, like the actual definition difference, like for the law enforcement side. And then, of course, HRD Police Canine Letter K number 9 also. So what about you, E?
Van S Canine on Instagram, Van S Canine Academy on Facebook. Now that I wrested that back out away from the pet side and put the police dog stuff on Facebook, I need to do more. Haven't been much on there. Everything's on Instagram. I do a lot on there. Ridgeside Canine Ohio is the pet side of the house. Things are doing real well. But yeah, man, that's it. And again, I still am always amazed at how many people tag Working Dog Radio and listen to Working Dog Radio. And they're like, you guys are killing it. You're awesome. And I look and they don't follow you or me.
Yeah.
Always amazed by that.
Oh, I do want to say, like, some guy reached out to me from a state that I'm not going to mention, but his admins are giving him some shit. And we sent him some information about back pay, and they ended up big problem. So
you have to pay your handlers care and maintenance. You can't. You'll never win. You as an administrator will never beat that case. Ever, never, ever, ever.
So if you're listening to this, send me an email. I'll send it to you. I'll send you the document.
Around and pay your guys. So
yeah,
Dustin, man, 2 years in the making. This was an amazing episode.
Yeah, dude.
Oh yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm glad I had the opportunity to get on with you guys.
Yeah, and if you guys are anywhere near Southern California at all, I'm telling you, you're the training you're going to get there. If you need training for your dog, is not going to be beat. North County Canine Training.
Yeah, come see us.
Check it out. So I appreciate you coming on, man. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Fuck. I just looked. It's 10:30 over here. That means I am an hour late for the kennel. So God only knows what I'm going to walk into. So
yep. I know how I feel.
I have a pointer in there that if it was legal, I'd probably stroke him right in his fucking throat. Oh, little pee. I call him Little Lord Pee Pants.
Oh yeah.
That's all he does is pee in the kennel nonstop, constantly, man.
Yes.
I'm like, you were out 3 minutes ago, you jerk off. So anyways, well, thanks a lot, man. Check the show notes. We got everything there. We got all the ways to reach Dustin, and appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.